Hello everyone, and welcome to my Lightning Sorcerer build for Baldur's Gate 3. This build is all about delivering devastating lightning damage, and in this guide we'll explore everything you need to know, from character creation to leveling up, spell choices, Illithid Powers, equipment options, and some game-changing tips I have gathered from over 500 hours of gameplay. So without any further delay, let's dive right in, starting with character creation. Your choice of character race will significantly impact your performance as a sorcerer, so feel free to choose the one that appeals to you the most. I choose Drow because they have interesting dialogue options, superior dark visions, and the benefits of Fey ancestry. They also learn Fairy Fire at level 3 and Darkness at level 5, both of which can be used once per long rest. For your abilities, Charisma is your most crucial ability since it influences your spell's difficulty class, making it harder for your enemies to resist your spells. Enemies that succeed in saving throws against your spells only take half damage. It also improves your spell's attack rolls like Chromatic Orb and Firebolt. Furthermore, Charisma directly impacts your persuasion skills. Dexterity is also important since it improves your armor class and initiative. Early in the game, we won't rely on dexterity for AC because we will be using heavy armor, which negates any dexterity bonus. However, the initiative bonus remains valuable. Constitution is essential to increase your maximum hit points and make it harder for enemies to break your concentration on some of your spells like Cold Lightning or Haste. Assign the +1 bonus to Constitution and the +2 bonus to Charisma, set Strength to 8, Dexterity to 14, Constitution to 16, Intelligence to 8, Wisdom to 10, Charisma to 17. During Act 1, I spared S of the Hag and accepted her boon, which boosts Charisma to a total of 18. Since you are likely going to be the highest charisma character in the group, pick either Guild Artisan or Noble for your background to have proficiency in Persuasion, and then pick Deception and Intimidation from your skills. That way you cover all the necessary skills for most dialogue options. Level 1 Sorcerer can learn up to 4 Cantrips and 2 level 1 spells, as well as choosing your subclass. You can choose between Wild Magic or Draconic Bloodline, but for this build we are going to focus on Storm Sorcery. Storm Sorcery gives you access to Tempestuous Magic at level 1. This is an excellent class feature that allows you to use Flight as a bonus action after casting level 1 spell or higher. This will enable you to reposition your character to line up multiple enemies for Lightning Bolt, or to simply escape melee attackers without provoking an attack of opportunity. For your cantrips, I suggest Firebolt, Shocking Grasp, Friends, and Light. Firebolt inflicts a moderate amount of fire damage and proves handy for igniting explosive barrels or causing flammable surface to catch fire. Shocking Grasp deals lightning damage, which will have synergy with certain features and items in this build. It also denies enemies their reaction, so for example, you can use it on a melee attacker to move away without provoking an attack of opportunity. Friends will give you an advantage on charisma checks, which is very helpful in most dialogue options. Light is highly utility to shine some light in very dark areas in the game. There are more cantrips that you can play with, but those were the ones that I was frequently using in my playthrough. For your level 1 spells, choose Chromatic Orb and Magic Missiles. Chromatic Orb is an incredible spell because it offers a wide variety of damage types like lightning, fire, poison, etc. So if you ever encounter an enemy that has immunity to lightning damage, you can change the damage type to something more useful. Chromatic Orb also has the potential of dealing the highest damage in your build, but in order to understand why, I have to quickly explain two types of spells. In Baldur's Gate 3 or D&D in general, you have two types of spells. One that has an attack roll and others that have a saving throw. Spells that have saving throws like Chain Lightning or Lightning Bolt are guaranteed to deal at least half their damage if the target succeeds in the saving throw, while spells that has an attack roll like Chromatic Orb can miss completely so you don't deal any damage, but also has the potential to become critical, doubling your damage dice. For example, a level 6 Chromatic Orb will deal 7d8, but if it crits, it will deal 14d8, which is very powerful. Chromatic Orb Lightning also creates a small pool of electrocuted water that deals d4 lightning damage to any enemies caught inside. Magic Missiles never miss, so it can be useful in the early game to quickly dispatch low HP enemies. It doesn't require a direct line of sight to your target, as it can home on them around corners. At level 2 we are going to multi-class into Cleric, and more specifically into Tempest Domain. We are doing this to gain access to Destructive Wrath at level 2 Cleric. Anytime you deal lightning or thunder damage with one of your spells, Destructive Wrath will prompt you to spend one Channel Divinity charge to maximize that damage. This is better spent on AoE spells like Chain Lightning or Lightning Bolt to maximize your lightning damage to as many targets as possible. However, you can also spend it on Chromatic Orb to disintegrate one target from existence. Tempest Domain will also give you access to heavy armor and shields, transforming your Sorcerer from a vulnerable spellcaster into unyielding and formidable battle mage. In Act 1, I had 20 armor class and could easily go over 23 with certain potions and buffs, which is extremely tanky. You also gain access to Wrath of the Storm, which allows you to retaliate, dealing 2d8 lightning or thunder damage against enemies that strikes you in close combat. For your cleric cantrips, choose Thaumaturgy, Guidance, and Resistance. I never really use any of them outside dialogue options or skill checks. It doesn't matter which deity to choose, so pick whatever you like, perhaps Mystra or Talos. For your spells, choose Create or Destroy Water. Casting the spell on your enemies will make them wet, which makes them resistant to burning damage, but vulnerable to lightning and cold damage. Vulnerable means you take double the damage. This is an essential spell and you have to use it in most of your fights to maximize your lightning damage. Usually, you want to cast the spell with a different character, mainly your group cleric. Sometimes you want to cast Create Water to cover a wider area to drench more enemies. You also gain access to Thunder Wave and Fog Cloud. Thunder Wave is very useful to send enemies flying from ledges. It can also push any large enemies like trolls. At level 3, we are going back to Sorcerer, where we will gain access to Meta Magic and Sorcery points. Meta Magic is a powerful mechanic unique to Sorcerers, allowing them to enhance their spells and give them extra properties. Meta Magic is essentially what sets Sorcerers apart from Wizards and Warlocks. You see, Wizards can learn a lot more spells than Sorcerers. However, Sorcerers wield their magic a lot better thanks to the Meta Magic mechanic. For example, Meta Magic Twin Spell will enable you to mirror a certain single target spells like Chromatic Orb to attack two targets at the same time. You can also use it to apply useful buffs to another ally like Haste or Greater Invisibility. One thing to keep in mind is that not every Meta Magic applies to every spell you have. For example, you can use Meta Magic Twin Spell on Haste, but you can't use it on Cold Lightning. The easiest way to find out is to toggle the Meta Magic first, and it will automatically highlight all the spells it can affect. It is important to note that you can only use one type of Meta Magic at any given time. Meta Magic uses sorcery points as a resource to enhance your spells. There are two ways to gain sorcery points. First, Long Rest will replenish a number of sorcery points equal to your sorcerer level. So if you are level 10 sorcerer, you will regain 10 sorcery points after a long rest. The other way is to use Create Sorcery Points, which allows you to spend your spell slots to gain number of sorcery points equal to the spell slot you sacrificed. However, you can also reverse this and use the Create spell slot to gain back some spell slots in exchange for sorcery points. Meta Magic costs vary from one type to another. Meta Magic Twin Spell will have an increased cost depending on what spell slot you are attempting to duplicate. A higher level spell slot costs more sorcery points to mirror. The game will tell you how many sorcery points you need before using any type of Meta Magic. Choose Meta Magic Twin Spell, and for your second option, you can choose Meta Magic Distance Spell to extend the range of your spells. Make sure to also choose the Shield Spell. Every time you are about to get hit by a melee or ranged attack, you will get prompted to spend one spell slot to increase your armor class by 5. At level 3 Sorcerer, you will gain access to a new Meta Magic. You want to choose Meta Magic Quickened. This is a very powerful Meta Magic since it will enable you to cast spells using your bonus action. This way you can get to cast 2 spells in the same turn, one with your action and another using your bonus action. You will also get to learn a new spell. I tried Shatter in my playthrough but wasn't at all impressed. Shatter deals thunder damage and sadly doesn't benefit from enemies that are wet, like cold and lightning spells. I would likely suggest Featherfall, Misty Step, Knock or Invisibility for utility, or go with Shatter for damage dealing. At level 4 Sorcerer, you get to choose one extra cantrip, a new spell, and your first feat. Feel free to choose any cantrip and spell you like, and for your first feat, go with Ability Improvement to increase your Charisma score to 20. At level 5 Sorcerer, you gain access to your first level 3 spell, and you certainly want to choose Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt is your first powerful AoE spell since it has insanely long reach. You always want to position your Sorcerer to line up and blast as many targets with Lightning Bolt as you can. For the next level, we are going back to Cleric to gain access to Destructive Wrath to maximize the damage of our lightning spells. From this point, we are going to only invest in the Sorcerer class. At level 6 Sorcerer, you get to learn a new spell. You certainly want Haste since it gives you an extra action point to cast one more spell at the same turn. It also enhances your movement speed and boosts your armor class by +2. And don't forget you can also use Metamagic Wind spell to apply to another ally in your group. You also learn Cold Lightning, Sleet Storm, Gusts of Wind, Create or Destroy Water, and Thunder Wave from the Storm Sorcery subclass. The most important spell to focus on here is Cold Lightning. This is an absolutely great spell to save your spell slots. It will cost you one spell slot at the beginning, but every subsequent cast for the next 10 rounds will only use your action points and nothing more. One thing to keep in mind is that Cold Lightning is a level 3 spell that deals 3d10 lightning damage. However, if you choose to upcast it to, let's say, level 6 spell, you will get to deal 6d10 lightning damage. And every time you use Activate Cold Lightning, you get to deal that upgraded damage again. So I recommend that you always try to upcast this spell as high as you can to utilize the Activate Cold Lightning. I would like to point out that you should be careful to not use Cold Lightning after using the Haste spell. This will immediately stun your character for one round and end the haste effect since both spells require concentration. I can't tell you how many times I made this stupid mistake in the middle of the fight. A workaround is to use a potion of speed to give you the haste effect since it doesn't require concentration to maintain. Or you can use another party member to cast haste on you. Storm Sorcery subclass also gives you Heart of the Storm and Heart of the Storm resistance. Every time you cast a level 1 spell or higher that deals lightning or thunder damage, you zap enemies around you for a small lightning or thunder damage. Heart of the Storm resistance gives you resistance to lightning and thunder damage. At level 7 Sorcerer, you get to learn your first level 4 spell, Ghost Dimension Door or Greater Invisibility for utility, or Ice Storm for different damage type. At level 8 Sorcerer, you get to learn new spells and gain access to extra feat. For your new feat, I suggest Alert. It will increase your initiative by +5 and ensures that you are never surprised. At level 9 Sorcerer, you can learn your first level 5 spell. Feel free to experiment around, but I chose Cone of Cold. Invest the last level in Sorcerer and pick an extra Metamagic. Metamagic heightened spell seems useful to ensure your targets do not resist your lightning spells. Let's go over some equipment options you should be looking out for. The key item you should aim to get your hands on is the Marco Heshkir Legendary Staff in Act 3. Equipping these staffs unlocks the use of Kriska's Favor. With Kriska's Favor, you can imbue your character with a specific element once per short rest. In this build, we are all about unleashing the Bolts of Doom. When you empower yourself with Bolts of Doom, you become resistant to lightning damage, and your lightning spells deal extra damage equal to your proficiency bonus. However, the real game changer here is gaining access to Chain Lightning spell and Arcane Battery. You also gain access to Lightning Bolt, but we have already got that covered. Typically, you would have to wait until reaching level 11 Sorcerer to access Chain Lightning. However, since we invested 2 levels in Tempest Cleric, this becomes the only way to unlock this incredible spell. Chain Lightning targets the main enemy and then bounces to the 3 nearest targets. My go-to move is pairing it with Metamagic Wind spell and Destructive Wrath when dealing with hordes of enemies, resulting in total annihilation across the battlefield. Thanks to Arcane Battery, the staff will also allows you to cast any spell without expending a spell slot. When using Arcane Battery, be sure to upcast your next spell to the highest available spell slot since it is essentially free. Keep in mind that Arcane Battery can only be used once per long rest, whereas Chain Lightning and Lightning Bolt refresh with every short rest. Tempest Cleric gives access to heavy armor and using a shield without suffering penalty to spellcasting. I'm currently using Kesric's shield because it gives +1 to spell save DC and spell attack rolls. For the helm I'm using Birthright, which boosts charisma by +2. I'm also using Robe of the Weave and Cloak of the Weave for the +1 to spell save DC and spell attack rolls. Gauntlet of the Tyrant for +1 to spell save DC. The last item I would recommend is the Amulet of the Devout. It boosts spell save DC by +1 and gives an extra channel divinity charge for an extra destructive wrath use. For your Illithid Powers, Favorable Beginnings is always great to have, but you really want to get your hands on Luck of the Far Realms. This can only trigger with spells that have attack rolls like Chromatic Orb. Pair this with Destructive Wrath and you will see some of the biggest damage numbers in the game. One ability that will certainly help you deal with a large crowd and make it easier to AoE them down is Black Hole. The cooldown resets every short rest and it can be used up to 10 times in the same fight. It covers a large area and also has a chance to apply slow to all enemies affected, make it one of the best crowd control abilities in the game. Free cast also is great, but for some reason it was bugged in my game and only worked once. Certainly stay away from concentrated blast since you can accidentally end your haste or cold lightning concentration when using it. So the way you play this build is fairly simple. We want to cast Create Water on our enemies to make them vulnerable to lightning damage. After that, your spell choice really depends on the situation. Lightning Bolt is excellent if you can line up multiple enemies. Cold Lightning is great for clustered groups. And Chain Lightning is your highest damage dealing AoE spell, but you can only get to use it after obtaining the Marco Hishkir Legendary Staff in Act 3. Chromatic Orb with Luck of the Far Realm and Destructive Wrath will crit for ridiculously high numbers and it's ideal for single high HP boost targets. Make sure to cast Haste spell or use Potion of Speed for an extra action as well as Elixir of Bloodlust. It will give you one more action every time you defeat an enemy and can only trigger once per turn. This way you can have up to 3 action points in one round and 4 if you used Meta Magic Quickened. Honestly, this build is fairly simple and easy to play, and it's one of the strongest builds you will get to play in Baldur's Gate 3, and I'm certain you will have a lot of fun playing it. This brings this guide to an end. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about this build or anything related to Baldur's Gate 3, feel free to drop them in the comments. If you found this guide informative and enjoyed it, a like would be greatly appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for future content. Once again, thanks for watching and have a great day.